Support for Lab Out Loud is provided by NSTA, the National Science Teaching Association. Find out more about what NSTA has to offer at nsta.org. You're listening to Lab Out Loud, science for the classroom and beyond. And in this episode, one of our favorite guests is back again to talk about some of his favorite loves, movies and television, and physics.
I take advantage of it. I'm never going to say, oh, the physics in that show is terrible, I'm not going to watch it. The physics in Star Wars is abysmal. But I love Star Wars. I don't care, right? But I can still find things in there to use as physics examples. I can still use it as a door to talk about the things that I want to talk about. And that's what I do. I'm not going to say the X-Wing shouldn't bank and the space there's no air. You know, it looks so awesome when it does that. Just leave it alone.
That's up next on Lab Out Loud, but first I'm your co-host Dale Basler.
And I'm Brian Bartell.
Well, we are back with a guest that's been on the show before, Rhett Elaine.
Yeah, you don't know something fantastic, Dale? And I kind of keep track of the episodes and like who's been on and everything like that.
Is this your episode spreadsheet?
It's kind of the episode spreadsheet, but I also put it in the show notes, like if we have a guest who's been on before.
Uh-huh.
So Rhett's been on the show, episode 51, episode 99.
Oh.
Episode 156. Are you noticing a pattern?
Well, close.
Yeah, it's not exact, but it's almost every 50 episodes. And this is episode 245, so we're off a little bit.
Oh, we missed him.
We missed him around episode 200, so sorry about that, Rhett. We got
to go back and look at what was happening around episode 200 in these categories.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but this is episode 245, so we're back in sync. There's a little bit of an error, like plus or minus 5 episodes approximately, but almost every 50. So we're expecting around episode 300.
Yes.
We'll need to get Rhett back on.
Exactly. Well, then he's the Five Timers Club.
Yeah, there's a special robe for that.
Yeah, a Saturday Night Live special robe. Well, we don't talk about Saturday Night Live in this episode, but the universes that we talk about in pop culture are the Marvel Universe, the show The Expanse, which Brian and I and Rhett are in love with, Star Wars, Star Trek. Fast and
alternate
Furious.
Star Trek universes.
All the Kelvin timeline of Star Trek. This is really getting into some nerdy places, but nerds cool now. It's been cool for a long time. Tenet, turns out Rhett actually worked a little bit on the movie, but didn't know.
Alternate timelines.
We'll hear that in the episode. Oh my gosh, yes. And of course, his one of his other jobs, which is he works for the McGyver TV show and is a consultant for that. So we talk about all these different kind of like universes and things like that in terms of physics.
Oh yeah. Speaking of alternate universes, Dale.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going. Right, because as we're releasing this show, this is just on the heels of the season finale of Season 2, For All Mankind.
For All Mankind. We didn't talk about that in this interview with Rhett because mainly I didn't watch the show when we did the interview. And then you've been suggesting, hey, we've been watching For All Mankind. We've been watching For All Mankind. And I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this. And then I just dove deep into it. The best I can say is if you're a science teacher or anyone out there listening to this and you haven't seen For All Mankind and you are someone who has NASA t-shirts or loves space history, the premise of the show, this isn't going to ruin it. The premise of the show is that the Russians in the space race land on the moon before us. And that kicks off way more competition, STEM. I mean,
technology innovation.
Technology is booming faster. And the last episode, Brian, I honestly stood up. I was standing in my basement cheering, clapping.
It was
my
good.
Rest of my family was like, what is going on down there? It was so good. We're not going to talk about it because it would spoil it to death, but just go out. It's on Apple.
That's episode 300. We'll have to come back for that.
Oh my gosh, that's a totally great idea. It's on Apple TV Plus. If you haven't seen it, you can go get a subscription of it. You will pour through that so fast that it's totally worth it. It's excellent. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking to Rhett today. Let's talk to Rhett. Let's meet Rhett.
I'm Rhett Elaine. I'm an associate professor of physics at Southeastern Louisiana University. I'm a physics blogger on both Wired and Medium. I make YouTube videos. I'm the technical consultant for McGyver, CBS show McGyver, and that's what I do.
You know, we've always asked this question about, you know, who are you and what do you do for our guests? But, you know, you've been here a few times now. Maybe we should ask, what have you done since we talked to you last?
When was the last time I was here?
Last time I think we talked, it was season 1 of McGyver. Like, I think I watched like 2 episodes of it. And that episode we actually talked about.
Oh, we
McGyver.
did? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So you're still doing McGyver.
I am.
McGyver is still going.
McGyver's still going.
Amazingly, in a pandemic, and you know that they did. It was funny when the pandemic hit. They stopped the season and they'd already recorded some stuff, but they didn't record all the way up to the season finale. So they're kind of like, "Hey, stop!" And then when they rebooted, they didn't. You know, they had to change some of the scenes so that they were social distances. You know, outside scenes are better than inside scenes. So it was. You know, I'm not really into movies and studio production, but it was really interesting to see how they adapted to still get things to work. So
did they have to change the scenes because they wanted to present the characters as doing social distancing? Like, or was it to meet the protocols?
No, yeah. Both? So if it's mostly expense, they had like quarantine or safety officers, and in order to have an indoor filming, the way I understand it, the amount of extra work that you had to do to get it to work was way more involved than if you were outside. So they'd much prefer to do outside stuff. And they did air a quarantined episode of McGyver, and I think it turned out really great. I was really impressed with the way they did it. So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So in the season, because I've seen that with some other CBS shows, where they're wearing, like that All Rise show, they're wearing masks and they live in this universe. They did that in McGyver too?
Yeah, they did. And honestly, it was probably one of the best episodes that they've done. So, you know, and it changes so much every year, just like The Expanse. Each season is so different, and, you know, they have different writers and different directors and stuff. So it does change. And I think season 5 is really, really great.
Did they keep the filming in the U.S.? I know that there were some studios that found it cheaper and safer to take the whole production to other countries like Australia.
No,
and
still
quarantine there and record it. It was still better to do it there than stay in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's also more expensive. So, you know, for TV shows like that, that's a big concern. So they stayed in Atlanta.
Okay.
How has your role changed since we last talked for the consultant? Has it stayed about the same, or?
Well, I mean, one thing that's changed this year is that we have a new showrunner, and I get more of the. And before, I would talk to the writers, and then I would go over the couple versions of the script, and then that was it. And maybe once in a while, props people would contact me about a picture or something like that. And I get more versions of the scripts, and my hard drive's full of McGyver scripts now. But that's about. I have the same role though, so same thing.
Okay. Have you gotten to meet like the actors or be on set or anything like that?
No, that would be so great though. I would love to do that. You know, I don't go anywhere anymore. So,
are you in the credits at all?
Oh yeah, I'm in the credits.
Oh yeah,
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, I'm in the credits. I'm in Internet Media, the movie database, the Internet Movie Database. I'm in there too. So,
is there a particular scene that you can tell us about, maybe from a current episode that you had a hand in?
Yes. Now I want to get one good one. Let's see what's a good one. Oh man, put me on the spot here. There was something that we just did. Oh, let me look at my notes. Is that cheating?
No, not at all.
Okay.
McGyver's kind of like in many ways, it's one of those characters for science teachers that, particularly physics teachers too, because I feel like we were always sort of McGyvering, using it as a verb and putting together like lab demos and stuff like that. It was a lot of like, ooh, look, I tricked out and figured out a way to use this sensor in a unique way. And
no, I agree. And I think
a lot of duct tape.
I think McGyver is a verb now, and mostly because of the original McGyver show. But, you know, I think physicists, and this is what I love about the show, is physicists are McGyver, right? This is what we do. You know, you work you're in a classroom. We can't always get what we want. Sometimes you get what you need, but you know, but you can't. Okay, so I found a McGyver moment that really gets me excited. And this is in this season 5 with the quarantine episode. And so what happened was, McGyver's always trying to do McGyver type stuff. He's trying to help save the world. He's stuck at home. And so he decides to try to make a low cost, do-it-yourself ventilator. And so he's working on that at the beginning of the show, and then they have an adventure. And at the end of the show, he gets an idea to make it better. And so he was having a problem with the motor. He was using a soda bottle to squeeze, and which wouldn't really work, but it was kitchen stuff. And he was having problems with the motor. And so after a car chase, he decides to use a windshield wiper motor to close it up. That's not the cool part. The cool part is that I got that idea from someone that actually did it and said they MacGyvered it. It was UT Austin had a project to build low cost ventilators, and they used the windshield wiper, and in their thing they said they MacGyvered it. So I used that in the McGyver show. Boom, take that.
Nice. There was so much of that going on, especially early pandemic. 3D printing parts for ventilators, all of that because of high demand. Brian even helped out. My wife is a nursing professor, and they had to meet because you really don't want virtual injections. Your nurses practicing those kinds of things. So they had to meet face to face, and Brian even helped print out some brackets for face shields for that school. There was a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
And I think that was inspiring to me, how many people would, basically take the MacGyver approach and let's all work on this together and get things, make a difference. And I think that's kind of the MacGyver, way of thinking. Let's help people with what we have. So
a lot of it took place virtually too, that collaboration, which strikes me because I just listened to a news story about schools getting back, and sometimes they say because virtual learning isn't working, it's not that it doesn't work, and it just seems to be this throwaway line. I know that you've been teaching virtual. You do a lot of different things virtual. What are your thoughts on that? Is that too easy of a comment to say virtual learning isn't working?
No, I mean that's not. I mean, I think you could say learning isn't working sometimes, right? We know that real learning isn't about presentation. It's about active stuff, right? It's about doing, as long as the students are doing things, then that's the thing. That's the key. And can they do things online? Yeah. Can they do things in person? Yeah. Could they also not do things in person? Yeah. So it is definitely a challenge. It's a challenge for me, to engage and have a great conversation and build a community of learners when everyone's online. I have trouble with that. Even though I do a lot of online stuff, it's different than the way I do it with the class. And what really makes it hard for me, is that this semester and last semester, we don't have online. We have hybrid. So which is kind of nice, but also kind of not nice. We'll have room requirements. So if there's a room, like I have a room that can hold 16 in order to be spaced out enough. But there's 25 students in the class. So that means 16 can come to class. The rest have to be online. And then that's a challenge, trying to have a conversation with people in person and online at the same time. I mean, I can't do it really. You really need someone in there to kind of facilitate the online stuff, which I don't have. So it's just, you got to pick who you're going to focus on. It's really,
that's what we're doing in our own school district. Like our children are doing that. As a matter of fact, from grades 5 and up, they meet face to face 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time is virtual. Now I have one of my kids who is taking physics. Actually, he's a junior. He's elected to stay completely virtual because it's his comfort level with the virus and that kind of stuff. But also, I kind of think that it's a little more cohesive for him, I think, or just consistent. I do think that I'm hearing from teachers that I don't know if it's an adjustment period yet or it's just it's too big of a challenge. Like you said, you need a facilitator. To do both is actually harder than just doing all virtual or all in person.
And I feel like the people that, and I agree that some students don't feel comfortable in this environment, and I don't force, the only thing I force them to do is to take the test in person, because that eliminates a big problem for me about online testing. If I can just say, just come in and take the test. And so I give the test on 2 days so that we can break up and still use the room. But other than that, I say, if you want to be online, that's fine. I don't think it's as good an environment for the discussion. We have discussions in class, and the online people don't really discuss. I think they're just watching a movie, and I think I'm kind of losing them. But I don't want to focus a lot of effort on solving this problem. I'd rather just solve the problem of not being in a pandemic. And then
we need a good McGyver moment for that, right?
Yeah, I'd like that.
But are there things from this moment that we will take into past the pandemic? Like earlier when we were setting up for this show, you mentioned, Rhett, like, isn't it, interesting that we're all like kind of way more tech savvy now for video stuff and things like that. Are there things like that we're going to take into now classrooms that are going to be assets, or will we change schedules, for example, in a way that it will, we'll learn from something during this pandemic and change? I would definitely change some things.
I think it's the ability to set up an online meeting, even with students, is really nice. If they can't come to school for whatever reasons, let's say there's no pandemic, but they're just stuck somewhere. I don't mind doing setting up a quick online meeting with them. That's no big deal. So I think that's something that we could carry on.
It's not a weird thing anymore where someone asks you, "Hey, do you want to connect during Zoom?" I remember over a year ago where it was like, "Okay, we're going to connect through Zoom," and there was a stigma around it.
I mean, I'd rather be in face to face. I mean, I think even with great internet connections, there's something missing in an online meeting versus face to face. That the small little subtle cues about how you interact with people, it doesn't feel quite the same to me. But you can do it. So
well, we've noticed with the teachers that we work with, we have what's called a late start every month. There's a day where there's 2 hours where the kids come in later, and it's designed for professional development, and it works well for many schools. However, specialties like the music teacher and the Phi Ed teacher, where there may only be one of those teachers in that school, they would have to travel across the district in order to meet. And now I think that, we won't have to worry about that. Like, no, you can just jump in this meeting and make it happen that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Which that was kind of stuff they were trying to do before the pandemic. And I think people were just, like I said, they were kind of weirded out by it maybe. And now they're more comfortable with it. The other thing I was going to say is like, and I don't know how it is in, for you as a university professor, I don't know if it's a big factor, but for, elementary, middle, high school, classroom management, managing behavior, those kinds of things, there's a lot of face-to-face nudging that you can do. You can just be in proximity to get a kid back on task, things like that. Way, way harder when they're virtual. You are relying on what's at home. If the parents aren't working or busy and things like that, you're putting a lot on the kid to police themselves. That's making a big challenge.
I think that's true in at the university level too. I mean, I have the online students, hardly anyone has their camera on, and I'm not going to make them turn on their camera. If they don't want, I don't want to push that button. And I don't know what they're doing. They could be, I know that some people come into the class online, and I'm pretty sure they're not actually there, because if I end and then the people that are online leave, there's like 3 people still there. And
oh no.
And so I don't know what happened. And there's no attendance points, or I don't know what they come in and they assume they get, I don't know, but I don't think they're really paying attention.
The UPS guy just came or something right at that point, something like that. It's interesting. You first of all, you have a post talking to students. It's student centered. How to deal with school in a pandemic, and there's some tips and tricks there as well. What would you do? You have something similar in mind for teachers or professors?
Oh boy, I think the thing I try to tell, I think especially teachers and faculty are very were, they try to make the best. They try to make things perfect, and they try to make great classes. And because that's what we are. We love that. And you can really drive yourself crazy. And I think accepting that this is not an ideal situation and just dealing with the way that we have things and being understanding about the situation that other students are in, giving them flexibility, which may mean they may do things they shouldn't do, but it's better than trying to make it just like a real in-person class, because that's really hard. And you really haven't prepared for that. Hopefully we won't have to keep doing this in this particular way, and just do your best. Don't stress out about it. When you go home at night, if you want to do some stuff, that's fine, but don't keep working all day. And I know that there are faculty that do that. And I know there are faculty that do the opposite too, that just say, okay, we're in a pandemic. Here's chapters 1 through 5. Come see me on the test. Ask me if you have any questions. And I don't think that's right either, but I know that some faculty are doing that too.
It's
Sure.
funny because I think there's going to be a point, and I look forward to this point in the future, hopefully the near future, where we'll be able to take a look back at a child and say, yeah, that was during the pandemic. You don't get these graces now. That gravy train has left. Again, hopefully that's a problem we'll have to deal with soon. But like Dale said, there's going to be some things that we are hopefully going to keep. One thing you told students in this post was to realize instructors are in a difficult position. You kind of alluded to that. How is there something though that we have to, like, as instructors, we have to say, all right, it's time to up my game in this. And I was able to put this off in the spring, but in the fall, maybe I need to try something new. Is that anything there you think that you might want to say?
I mean, I hopefully we don't have to try anything new after, for next fall, right? Hopefully we can be back to normal. That's kind of what I'm hedging on. There's such a wide variety of faculty at different positions. It's hard to, in different states of learning, that it's hard to say everyone should do one particular thing. Sure. And on top of that, a lot of classes are very different. What we do in physics versus what they do in history is extremely different. Or communications classes. Those are tough, right? Although this is a prime example for that's one thing I have seen that I was disappointed at. Here we have a communications class, and they force it into giving a speech in front of a bunch of people, which I think is important. But here we have this other great opportunity to learn how to communicate through other ways, which is communication, and probably more important in the future too.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I think, we, especially in a physics teacher, I'd like to pick your brain on this and maybe talk to this. One of the things that my own children struggle with, and I see teachers struggling with it too, is math online in an online environment. What are you obviously have math in a physics class, and you probably have to rely on some kind of online submission to show math work and how to practice math. Do you have any ideas there or suggestions there?
I mean, what I do for students submitting work, we use Google Classroom, and I just make an assignment and they say just work it out, take a picture of everything and upload it there, and it works pretty well. And then I can still see their homework. For an assessment, I would rather have them make do a video solution rather than an paper solution, because it's really hard to cheat on a video, and it's not hard to cheat using online materials. If I give them a test and say solve this and then submit your work, you know what's going to happen, right?
So you're talking like a video where they're actually like they have the camera like watching them write down the answer, right, or discussing it.
Either. So I have the way I have them do it is I have them. I say I want it to be under 5 minutes because, I don't have time for all that.
There's only so much you can speed up a video to listen to it before it turns
into...
the answer
on
is
YouTube, on YouTube, you can jack them up.
To double. YouTube.
No, there's a custom now. You can do 16.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just save Rhett like hours. No.
Yeah.
I skip ahead. I won't watch the whole thing even then. But I say, explain your solution in 5 minutes. And that may mean that you should write it out beforehand and then to go over it. Or if you want to write it out as you're doing it, that's fine. Some people even make, PowerPoint presentations of their solution. They do all sorts of stuff. And if you don't give them explicit directions, it's great because they can come up with their own. And it really works out well.
What's interesting there is that, let's say you have a student who gets a solution from someone else. So in a sense, what we would call cheating, but then has to figure out what happened to get there and then do it in a video to show you. In that case, they're really learning it as well,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Because look, the worst case, they get a solution and they memorize it for the thing and they give a presentation. They're probably going to learn something. Even then, I promise you can tell the difference. You can tell there's so many subtle little things that if you don't understand what's there and you're just trying to read it, you call using P for momentum, but you call it pressure. It's just stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's it. There was a great example I gave. This is before the pandemic, where I was doing video. It was an optional video reassessment, and they were doing dipole the calculations of the electric field due to a dipole, and there weren't a lot of. I have them pick their own problem, and there weren't a lot of problems to do, and so I said just derive the electric field due to a dipole on the perpendicular axis, which is in the book, and I did it for them too. Okay. I said, but you can redo that for your video, and you still immediately understand. You really get a feeling for what they know and what they don't know. I've already done the derivation for them. So just them redoing it is very insightful for what they understand. It's really great. And you get to see the other thing about videos, you really get to see their personality. Some students really bring their personality into the video in a way that I really enjoyed. I mean, I do enjoy it. And finally, the other thing I love about videos for most situations, I would say, actually what I would do is give them an in-class question, and then they could do a video to improve their grade. But I would say, look, here's the standard. It's on momentum principle. You pick the problem. And some of them will just go and pick the simplest problem, plug and chug problem out of the book and solve that. And that tells me right away what they understand. Right?
Yeah.
And then they can do another problem, but that's where they're starting with this simple, basic problem. They really don't know what's going on. And that tells me a lot and it allows me to give them feedback. So I love that part too. Video reassessments are just really great.
Do you take points off if they record in portrait instead of landscape? Because I think I would. No,
I lecture them about that. The other one that I'd say, look, don't hold your phone vertical. So what they do is they hold their phone sideways, but they start it off vertical, so it's worse. So you get a sideways video that's horizontal, and I said, I give them one pass, and after that, I say, I'm not accepting this. Do it again. Fix it. Either edit it and fix it or redo it. I don't care, but I'm not watching the video sideways. I'm not turning my computer sideways. So
as a swim coach, we would have students come in and they could never do the breaststroke kick. And the reason is they were taught this like safety kick, like a scissor kick basically. And so this is like, I blame TikTok for all of, all of these portrait recordings because we're just comfortable with doing that instead of landscape.
Well, it shows you that you're a computer person, not a phone person. If you're on the phone all the time, vertical recording is the best. But if you're on the computer, it's not.
Also, if it's the right kind of thing that you're going to record, it makes sense too. So if you're going to do like I used to do this lead sinker drop, a string of sinkers, that you need this big vertical field of view for that. That might be appropriate then.
I still do those horizontal.
So now, okay, we've talked a little bit about some ideas about how to teach better in a pandemic or learn better in a pandemic as well. And some of those ideas I hope do stick. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of things that we can carry into the future.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the video things. I really like that idea. See, my son, as I mentioned, is taking high school physics, and he's using a lot of the pivot interactives. You know what?
Yeah, those are great.
And yeah, talk about perfect for the pandemic. I mean, some of those, I would have used face-to-face anyways, but in this case, hey, we can't set all these things up. I do wish he could set up some cars and things like that, and it doesn't happen as much, but this is a concession we all understand we have to make. The difficult thing, I think, for doing the math or assessing the math is almost all of his assignments, that answer is just turned in on a submit box. And I think he can submit like 2 or 3 times depending on the question. And that's if he has a significant figures thing wrong, or that's really what it's for. If you didn't make it negative or positive or something like that, that's where that is. But partial credit wise, you have no clue. Whereas your videos, you could see like, they grabbed the wrong number there, or they grabbed the wrong direction there, and they carried that through, but everything else is correct. They just, did a little veer off there. That's one thing I wish we could improve, and your video suggestion, I think, is a good example of that. And that would catch those.
I think that's not just a pandemic thing. I think this whole idea of put your answer in this box and submit it is pre-pandemic. Is that a word, pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic? Sure, it is.
It's pre-pandemic, and I agree. It's an unfortunate way to assess.
How is it pre-pandemic? People were doing that prior. You mean?
Yeah. They're doing online homework for a long time, right? Where it's just there's no partial credit, and then you do the problem right, but you put the wrong number of significant figures in there, and it's like, oh, wrong. And then,
wasn't there some opportunity though, since you were seeing them in class, where you could see like, okay,
fight
this
for those
student
points back?
Was on the right track, or stuff. I mean, I think it's worse now because everything is fill in the blank.
Yeah,
I think you should fight as a teacher. You got to use some of those just to get the job done, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank here and there, that kind of stuff. But you do have to make room for the opportunity to show the written work and see that, especially with math and physics and things like that, because one little thing can just blow up that end answer.
Maybe that's the next pandemic, though, Dale, because now this pandemic helped us with video connections. The next pandemic, we'll all master our touch screens. Drawing on a touch screen.
I've never heard someone like, we'll save that for the next pandemic.
Well, no, but I mean, obviously we have
You're hedging for the next
now.
Pandemic.
It was the pandemic that really pushed us into being comfortable with Zoom and Google Meet and such, and so we have touch screens now. We may have to have something else push us into using it, but more comfortably.
A digital pencil and paper alternative would be great.
Well, my wife used the iPad with the pencil. That was really great.
It's come a long way. It's gotten a lot better. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about using videos and using assessment in them. You definitely look through a lot of pop culture videos, and do you use those in your classes as well?
Not as much as everyone thinks I do, because I really, I really use those for myself. I like pop culture, and sometimes it works that there'll be a couple days each semester where I do something on pop culture, but usually it's just those. So
you don't assign like the stopping plane from Tenet as an assessment question, huh?
No, that was real work. I actually did that as real work, so.
That
was fun. That when I saw that trailer, because I did that calculation for the
before you even knew what it was for.
I didn't know what. Right, it was Merry-Go-Round Productions. I think the name of the movie was Merry-Go-Round, and that they said, people call me all the time and like, hey, can you do this thing? I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. So I did it. And I wrote up and there was a lot of complicated things. How does if you take out half the brakes in the 747 and you change the mast, how far does it stop? And what is braking on what's the limit on braking? It's not sliding, it's not some coefficient of friction thing. So it is hard to model, and especially you don't want to be wrong, because if you're wrong, then something bad could happen. So
I don't know the story here. You were asked to do this, but you didn't know it was for a movie?
No, well, I knew it was for a movie. They contacted me and they said, hey, we're making a movie, and we're going to crash a real 747 into a building. The insurance company won't let us do it without an analysis of how far it would take to stop if it doesn't crash. So they want to know how much extra space we need in order to do this. So they found a 747, a non-functioning one. It didn't have.
Do you get this question in an email, or someone just call you and say, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing right now"?
I think it was an email. It must have been an email.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
Would you have asked for more money had you known what it was for?
I mean,
so it was for the movie Tenet?
yeah,
I haven't seen that movie yet.
it's definitely it's different. I kind of like it. But
Okay, so you're
then
analyzing how far the
they
plane
took
goes.
they were going to pull it up to 20 miles an hour, and then they said we're going to stop it with half the brakes. It only has half the number of brakes. It has no engine, so we have the mass of it. We want to know how far it's going to stop. And so I did the calculation, and it was kind of fun. And then that was it. And then I saw the trailer for Tenet, and it shows the 747 crash into the building. I'm like, I did that. I told my
What
kids.
kind of brakes do the 747 have? I thought they did reverse thrusters.
They do.
But
Well, so that's the thing. They have disc brakes on the wheels, and they use reverse thrusters normally. But then they have an abort takeoff test in which they get it up to a real 747 up to takeoff speed, and then they stop it with just the brakes because you might not have the engines. Right. So so I found that video. Actually, that's how they found me, because I had already analyzed the aborted takeoff test. I think that's what it's called. And it's really cool because the brakes get so hot they glow. And so I did analysis of thermal energy from braking on a 747 just because, I thought that was cool.
You have to use your FLIR.
Yeah.
Well, do you watch any Formula One?
No, not really.
Oh, you want to see brakes? This was my pandemic rabbit hole. I got totally into Formula One, but their brakes are basically always going to catch fire. They have to go on the straightaways to push air through there to keep them cool because they're almost always catching fire.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah, they're glowing.
I've learned
all
a
the
lot
time.
more science of Formula One just being Dale's friend.
Do yourself a favor, Rhett. Go down the science rabbit hole. I'll send you some videos.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Good.
Well, the funny thing is okay. So I want to know: do people are asking you to do these things? They're hiring you in a sense to do this.
Yeah.
They're not just like throwing out a little breadcrumb and watching. I know you can't resist.
No, it's not
this out.
spreadsheet.
No, people
like
do that
for
too,
me, Brian.
People do
Yeah,
that too.
sometimes they do that to Dale, where I know, like, I'll just kind of push this in front of Dale and watch him go down a rabbit hole.
Now, if it's good,
They leave
that's fine.
They leave like little spreadsheet projects in front of me, and then they're like, he can't resist.
The one, and I know other people get this too. The one I really bothers me is high school physics student projects where the part of their project says, their teacher says, you must contact 3 experts. And so they'll contact me and say, hey, I'm calculating the something with Mars. What do you know? I'm like, they don't even ask a question. It just, and so I just stop. I know why I shouldn't do this, but I just don't like those questions. They're
You must be looking for the other red lane.
Right. They're not
the number you have dialed.
They just need to check a box that they checked it with an expert, and they want me to do that. And so I just don't reply to those. Sorry if you emailed me. I apologize.
That is the downside of the internet, though. I mean, I think that sometimes it's opening up too much in a sense that.
Well, they need a compelling question to get your attention.
Yeah, they got to get my attention, or pay me.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. A compelling question is payment.
So since we can't pay our students to keep them engaged, I think a lot of science teachers out there are using pop culture to engage students. What are some of I guess during the pandemic, we've all been talking about what are you streaming, basically, because that's our entertainment. Have you seen an uptick of opportunity for analyzing different shows coming out? Or
I think actually I have seen a downtick because
there's less stuff, right?
With the pandemic, really, Black Widow never came out.
I know.
And that's the source. That's my source. Science fiction, Star Wars, which is space fantasy, and superheroes, which is science fiction. Most of my stuff comes from that. And, but that's, if there's not new Marvel shows, there's not new, and there was The Mandalorian, that was good. He's wearing a mask, so it's okay.
Trendsetter.
Yeah.
Are you going kind of deep into some of the old shows or, farther back in the Marvel catalog or stuff like that?
No. I mean, I still watch, new Marvel stuff. There's a great example. This is pre-pandemic again, but, you rewatch Marvel things and new ideas come to mind. Iron Man 3 was on TV and I caught it in the middle because, I'm just going to watch it. I like all the Marvel stuff. So, and then at the end, spoiler alert, That's an old movie. It's okay.
Yeah, that's way beyond spoiler.
So he broke his armor and he's fixing it and he put it back together, but it wasn't charged. So he had it hooked up to a few car batteries.
Car batteries,
right.
yeah.
And then he's, okay, I got to go. So he disconnects it and he pulls one of the cables off and it sparks, and he pulls the other one off and it sparks. And so I'm like, wait, I never noticed that the first few times I saw it, but it sparked when he pulled off both wires. And so then I wrote about, why do you have a spark? What's a complete circuit? It's a great opportunity to talk about, some circuit stuff that I want to talk about and use Iron Man. So,
Do you think now that you're on the scene, like the pop culture police in a sense, are more shows taking the time to try to get the science right, or is it going the opposite way? Especially now with I'm sure there's less budgets for some of that. We'll see in the future. They may not have as much attention to do that.
I think it's about the same, and I would like to say I don't think that I'm the pop culture police. That's another person that I know that I'm not going to mention, because I'm the pop culture take advantage of. I take advantage of it, because I'm never going to say, maybe a couple times, but I'm never going to say, the physics in that show is terrible, I'm not going to watch it. The physics in Star Wars is abysmal. There's nothing. But I love I don't care, right? But I can still find things in there to use as physics examples. I can still use it as a door to talk about the things that I want to talk about, and that's what I do. I'm not going to say the X-wing shouldn't bank in the space because there's no air. It looks so awesome when it does that. Just leave it alone, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's better? Do you think it's better when I'm just processing? It does look awesome. But do you think it's better when a show does, like I think it's time to say The Expanse, which is a show that all three of us watch and love, where they are getting the science right? Is that a better show?
They're mostly getting the science right.
Or is it really riding on science and,
for me,
or excuse me, on story? The story can
I think it's a
carry
story.
you through bad science.
I think that it's not even. I don't even care if it's bad science. It's the story for me. I'm not watching that for science. I'm watching that for the story. The Expanse has great science, and that just gives me more opportunities to do cool physics posts, right? So
yeah, I guess that's my question though. Can the story be good enough that you will exempt bad science?
Star Wars, right?
That and I think you could say that that's probably crosses more into the fantasy realm.
Okay, it's so bad.
Is it? I mean, Star Wars.
I don't want to label it that way, but yes,
I call it space fantasy.
Space fantasy.
Here's what I say to Star Wars.
No Star Wars hating out there. We love it all.
I suppose with Star Wars, we can always say, oh, well, we have no idea what technology we're using. We have no idea what they are, who they are, all those kinds of things. I guess I struggle when you have a TV show a movie like Fast and Furious. I'm clearly nobody's consulting them. And like even sometimes like James Bond movies, or Bad Boys, stuff like that. Those are humans on Earth. Last time I checked, they have no superpowers, yet they act like they have superpowers, and everything behaves like. To me, the story can be compelling, but those kinds of things take me out of the movie. Is that just because I'm a science teacher, or does that happen to others?
You're just mean. That's all.
Have you seen some? I mean,
no, I know.
I actually wind up liking.
It's fun. It's just for fun, right?
Well, that's actually it. I wind up enjoying Fast and Furious movies because I find it fun to laugh at. Like, not laugh at in a mean way, just like how over the top they go. That's what I love about it.
I mean, I just have no problem separating, real science from the storytelling aspect. I'm okay with that. So.
I think you're right, Rhett, because being the police, I don't think students like that either.
No.
Like if you teach that and you try to introduce one of those stories, and if you're just trying to nitpick it apart, I don't think they connect to that.
I mean, I try to always be clear. I'm not a nitpicker. I don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. For the Iron Man, going back to the Iron Man spark thing, I wrote, okay, and I give this in a presentation, the 2 sparks is wrong. So why do they have it that way? And the answer is, it just looks cool, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I think you see that in The Expanse. Obviously, there's a lot of science that we can appreciate that's done right, but there's a lot of battles that are done in space, and we shouldn't hear anything in space we wouldn't hear those explosions in the same way that they're doing it for dramatic effect.
Right. And in fact, that tells part of the story. That sound tells part of the story. And our connections with we have no connections with space. So if you put them in it's just like learning. When you put yourself in an environment where you don't have, a way to use your pre-existing ideas, when you take, when you show students an object that moves at a constant velocity with no force, that doesn't work for them because that's not what they've seen before. And when you when you show a movie in space where there's no sound, it's like, wait a second, that's not right. And it takes you out of this story by showing it right. And so they
really,
I think so. I mean, if you had no sound,
I want to say Battlestar Galactica, the new version, and
Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly, but and The Expanse. Like, one of the things I absolutely love about The Expanse is when they don't have comms in their spacesuits, but they talk by touching their helmets together.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's like muffled and muttered, and it's like you could go put on like some helmets and do that and kind of get a sense of what's going on there.
It's just like wearing a face mask.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Although I have to say, I remember watching the Star Trek, the reboot, the movies, the franchise, I guess we call it the Kelvin timeline. And when that first battle happened and, basically there was an ejection of someone into space and it just went dead quiet. That was one of those points where I was like, oh, yes, of course. We don't have sound in space. Now, of course, they put it in back later for dramatic effect, but they use that almost as like we know that this doesn't happen and we're going to make a point of it, but we're going to ignore it later.
The silence to me when in a space movie speaks to the harshness of the environment. That's what I like.
I think you are not. I mean, I think a normal person would see the silence.
You just said it, yeah. Okay,
I did. We're all not. None of us are really normal. If you had a scene like that with complete silence in space, the first thing people would do is say something's wrong with my TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Another Expanse story. So if listeners don't know what the Expanse is, I think the short summary is it's in the future. It's about space exploration. But really, they've barely left the solar system because it's big and there's a lot of distance and traveling is hard. And so it really just lives in the solar system, and that's what's really cool. There's a scene that you wrote about recently where two ships are side by side, we'll say docked. They have like a gantry-way maybe kind of connecting them. And they begin to pull apart. I'm not exactly sure why they pull apart.
I can tell you.
Yeah, tell us.
So there's a smaller ship and a slightly larger ship, and they were chasing, and one of them had got the engine shut down, and then so the other one died. It's just like in Pirates, right? They're boarding and they're going to take over that ship.
Yeah, like a gangplank.
Yeah, it is. There's no swinging, but there was a guy that jumped. He jumped from one ship to the other to go mess up with the ship. It's pirates. It's space pirates. It was so great.
It is space pirates.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And then so one of the girls on the small ship, Bobby, she's a Martian Marine, and she has like a super powered armor suit that can like just she's a Marine. It's like
it's a little bit of a mech suit, right? Yeah.
And it's bulletproof mostly, and she's got good weapons and stuff. So the people start coming in there, and she's like, that's not going to happen. And they say, okay, we're gonna get out of here. So they're getting out of there, but so they can attack the ship again. And so Bobby has to wait for the other guy to mess up the ship. So she holds she tries to hold the two ships together while they're trying to leave.
And the question I think online was, could she really hold those two ships together?
Yeah, and so despite the fact that she's wearing powered armor, the thing that for me is this. It brings me back to this physics problem where you have a large mass connected to a small mass, and so she only has to pull. It doesn't matter how big the big ship is. She only has to pull the small ship, right? Because she's like the tension in the cable, pulling the small ship. So
it's sort of, if you think about it, it would be like a dump truck and a little red flyer wagon,
right?
And you can't pull the dump truck, but you can hold that wagon.
Right. If you're holding onto the wagon with the dump truck and the dump truck takes off, it doesn't matter how big the dump truck is. You only have to pull the wagon. Now it's not a wagon; it's bigger than that. But the acceleration was pretty low, and I mean
a Prius.
But based on my rough estimations, which is really hard because what's the mass of the spaceship? You know, I even if you guess the size, what's the mass? And so I said, well, it has the same density as the International Space Station. That's what I used. So because it's not a ship, right? It's space. You can make things really light. It doesn't have to be heavy.
So there was a scene in one of the end of this season where Amos pulls out a bottle of liquor and it falls down about 4 or 5 flights on the moon, basically.
Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Rhett?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You've solved the math on this already?
No, that's a good one though. Oh gosh, I forgot to do that.
I want to know.
I thought you would have already.
Yeah,
but
now I didn't think about it.
That went through my head. Like, would the bottle actually break, or would it maybe bounce or something? And was it
there's a
tequila
whole
or
thickness
whiskey
of glass.
It was
tequila.
I'm pretty sure it was tequila.
It's tequila.
But I love how he has time to yell down to the people, "Hey, someone get that!" And they're like, "What?" So
I just wondered if there was enough force to have it to break, or if it might bounce or something.
I was thinking calculate the acceleration, see if they got the acceleration of the moon right, the gravitational field of the moon right. Which, if they didn't, I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
But but I want to do it for fun.
And as Dale mentioned, like, yeah, it makes sense because, you know, Amos is on Earth and he reaches out and he's pulling it out with the force of thinking he's still been on Earth. And then,
he just got off of Earth. So he's like, I mean, we've all had that feeling where you pick something up and you thought it was heavier or lighter than it is. And you're like, whoa, you know, like, I think that's could be what would be going on there.
I thought you were about to say we've all had that feeling when we go from the Earth to the moon and it's hard to adjust.
I mean, yes, you haven't had your
I've done it.
Shuttles. I think for me the pandemic has, when it comes to pop culture, allowed me to slow down and look at these kinds of things. So as someone who used to use these kinds of things in my class, I wonder if teachers had a chance to, like, hey, I was able to rewatch or finish up and look at these things and come up with little examples, new examples for that, because I think it's given us an opportunity to, you know, just because there is less material, you know, there's less new movies. We kind of missed a whole summer blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
And so it's allowed people to kind of catch up a little.
But, you know, I really do. I'm really impressed with the way the movie industry has handled and adapted, you know, and I think we talk about changes in education due to the pandemic. What about changes in movies and them saying, hey, we're just going to release this and online at the same time? What the heck? Just do it, right?
Yes.
So,
well, that's, and I even thought you were going to say, like, the fact that they're following the science and adapting, that's a whole different take on, you know, science and the movie industry itself.
No, but I love that point you just made, because that's a perfect example. In HBO Go, there's people, you know, we talked about Tenet before. Christopher Nolan's not happy that, you know, that kind of stuff is happening, where a movie that's supposed to be for the theater is being released on the screen. And I think those are different people. The people that go to the theaters now and the people that go, and I think after the pandemic, it's going to be amplified. You're still going to go to the theater for a big movie because it's going to be an event, but people are still going to want to watch it in their,
I mean, if you had the choice, it's at the same time. You know, I want to see it as soon as I can, so I don't get spoiled and so I can blog about it. But let's say that it's online and it's in the movie theater at the same time. What do you do? I mean, do you care? If it's all the same, I'd rather just watch it at home.
It depends. If it's like, let's say we take the next Marvel movie. I guess it's going to be
Black Widow.
Dune's going to be the next big one, Dale.
No, but the next Marvel movie that'll be in the theater besides Black Widow,
Spider-Man 3.
It'll be Black Widow, Spider-Man. No, it'll be Doctor Strange.
No, I think Spider-Man 3. There's Spider-Man 3. There's the next Thor movie. I know they're filming that too, but I think.
Oh yes, that's too.
I think the next one after Black Widow is Spider-Man 3, but.
Oh, well, whatever it is, I think there's going to be people like us who enjoy that stuff. I think I would, like, I could see myself saying, "Hey, Brian, we got tickets. Let's go see this together." You get that. You get cheers. You know, you get the crowd cheering and kind of going along with that.
Although I've been tempted to say, "Hey, Dale, let's buy out the whole theater for just my family and your family."
Marcus just sent me an email about that. It's $150.
Yeah.
Well, that's not so bad.
Just to do it.
No, it's not.
I mean, that's really not a bad price.
Nope.
No, it's $100. I think it was $150. I think they're running all kinds of promotions,
Right.
And then you get like some snack coupons and stuff like that. Yeah, it could be really good.
But still, I mean, it's just me. I just prefer to watch at home and in my own time. I do really like the movie theaters that have the new chairs and stuff. The big, But but still, I'd rather do it at home. But
well, that's I think a good place to stop because I think that's a parallel. That continues to be a parallel to the classroom. I think we may have students who will continue virtual because now we know it can work for some students.
Or want
and so I think both of those things are going to be, and I'm hoping that we do nothing but take the best out of this past year and apply it forward.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us and geeking out with us there, Rhett. We'll definitely have you on the show in the future, and we wish you the best finishing out your semester.
Well, I'm always here. I'll be happy to be on the show whenever you want. So it's always fun to talk to other, physics nerds. No offense, but it's true. Science nerds. Science. Let's say science. I'm sorry. Science.
All
I'm
inclusive
just
science
physics
nerds.
adjacent.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Lab Out Loud. If you'd like to learn more about some of the things discussed in this episode or previous episodes, you can find show notes at our website, laboutloud.com. If you have a guest idea or a future topic that you'd like to see on Lab Out Loud, go to our contact page and send us a message. Also, you can subscribe to Lab Out Loud on your favorite podcasting app, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to find podcasts. While you're there, leave us a review and rating. Your input helps others find our show. Thanks again for listening.